Hey everyone, this is Dr. Casey Johnson. Thank you so much for taking time to listen to the Unlock Wellness podcast. I know you're going to love today's episode with Jennifer Bartels. Jennifer is amazing and is doing some really positive work, so I'm excited to have her on to share her story with you guys. If you've been loving the Unlock Wellness podcast, be sure to jump onto iTunes, subscribe, and write a review. It really helps me out a lot, and I really appreciate all of the feedback and support. Also, be sure to follow me on social media to keep up with the latest podcast episodes. The best way to connect with me is on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. My username across the board is at Dr. Casey Johnson. That's DrKaseyJohnson. You can also check out my website at drcaseyjohnson.com. It has all of the past podcast episodes and more information about each guest under the Listen tab. While you're on my site, also be sure to check out the Shop tab, where you can check out my first book of my Healthy Children's Book series and learn about the Unlock Wellness Project, which applies a wellness bag to a child in need for each book purchased. Thank you again for listening. I hope this episode leaves you feeling inspired to start making positive changes to your health. Now it's time for today's episode. I hope you love my conversation with Jennifer Bartels. Welcome to the Unlock Wellness podcast. I'm Dr. Casey and excited for today's guest. I'm here with Jennifer Bartels. And Jennifer is an actress, producer, and writer known for TV shows like Broken, Friends of the People, and most recently, American Woman, which will be airing on the Paramount Network in June. So be sure to keep an eye out for that. But not only is Jennifer an incredibly talented actress, she is passionate about her health and fitness, even with her crazy schedule. And recently being diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, she hasn't let that slow her down from her hard work. So I'm just excited to hear her story and just talk about all of the amazing things that she's doing. So Jennifer, thank you so much for taking time to come on. I'm excited to have you.
Man, I wish everybody, like if there was like an intro, you were my intro for every party, every event. When I wake up in the morning, I want to just hear that on replay because it made me feel so good. I was like, wow.
Great. If you need me for every event and party, I am there. So you give me the word and I'm there. No, but thank you. But I'm for real. I'm very excited to have you. I really love your work. And yes, I know we were kind of chatting it up beforehand. And so we're just going to jump into your backstory. So, first off, like where you're from, and then, what your health and wellness looks like growing up at a younger age.
So originally my family's from New York, and before I was born, my dad was in the Coast Guard, so we moved to North Carolina, and that's where I'm technically born, and is in Elizabeth City, and then we moved back to New York, and then back to North Carolina. So it was kind of culturally like a big shift for me when I was 11, and then I went from 11 on living in North Carolina, and then I started studying theater and things like that. And I guess when it comes down to like a health snapshot, my dad was always kind of active, but we're eaters because we're from New York, and so we enjoy, like, we kind of show love through food. Mm-hmm. But there was always a decent balance, but only later in life, like in my mid-20s or early 20s, I would say, is when I really started looking at fitness as something that can help me, not just physically, but like having a wellness plan that can just help with anxiety. And kind of, I think being an artist is really difficult. Life is difficult. So I think it was more of a psychological thing for me that I became addicted to something good for you. And I think that's a good addiction.
Right. And like, did you kind of grow up kind of like a dramatic person? Like you knew you were going to go that route? Like what even made you want to go into that?
When I was a kid, I watched Flashdance and Annie. So I either wanted to be an orphan that sang or a stripper. And I didn't know she was kind of a stripper. I thought she was a dancer.
Was like, please, Annie, God, please.
Yeah. So I studied, I did dancing for a big part of my life when I was younger. And since I was 2, I was thinking I was going to be a dancer and I was going to do Broadway. And then very quickly when I got down to North Carolina, I think the cultural shock and trying to find friends any way I could, I started using comedy as kind of a coping skill, which like I realize now later in therapy, that like it's a strength and kind of my weakness. And then people were like, well, you're funny. And I was like, oh, thanks. Like, I think from there, I like look back on times where I'm like, oh, I feel like I've always been trapped in like like an old soul in like a young body. So I felt like I had a connection with people, and then I leaned into theater in high school, and I feel like I found my voice, I guess. So I guess it was something that started kind of like, how can people like me? I'll be funny. And then I was like, oh, I can parlay that into something performance wise. And, but I mean, I guess I'm a little dramatic. I don't know. I feel like everyone has their own drama. We're all dramatic.
Well, obviously it worked out because you've been able to work on a lot of amazing projects, and like so when was your first like big, like, I guess your first big gig, I guess, like you felt like you could actually do this for a living?
Well, I was doing comedy at Upright Citizens Brigade when I moved back to New York to study theater, and thinking I was going to, again, maybe do stage. And then the stage that I found was actually an amazing, like, little basement theater called UCB, which are Upright Citizens, which so many like amazing people have come out of, from like Chris Gethard, Aubrey Plaza, Adam Pally, all at Ben Schwartz, everybody. So I started doing that, and yeah, I mean, I feel like I guess the biggest thing was I worked for Verizon Wireless because I didn't want to wait tables. And so I was actually like on the corporate side of Verizon, and I couldn't take it anymore. And I was like, I have to do this. I have to really try. So I started auditioning and got an agent, and an agent found me from the stage and started sending me out in commercial auditions. And I was like, I just want to book a commercial. And then I did. And then I was like, I just want to book another one. And then I did. I mean, there was a zillion I didn't book, but I consistently started booking things that were making enough money that I didn't need to work at Verizon. And I had a great support system too at the time. So yeah. And then I started booking consistently. And then I booked a role in Men in Black, like a very small role, but it was a very big deal because it's such a big movie and such a big franchise. And I got to do a scene with Will Smith, and I was like, it was one of my favorite days of my life. And I was like, I want to love what I do, and I'm never going to stop trying to do this. And I think that's something you come to terms with. Like, even when there's a crappy year, I'm never going to stop because I love this too much.
Right.
And when you sit with that, that allows you to kind of keep going, because you're like, well, I'm just going to keep going. There's no end to this. And then when things start actually going your way, and you've prepared, and the universe is on your side for a minute, and all these things align, it just keeps you going. It's like a good drug.
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah.
No, that's amazing. Yeah. I mean, like, just to go from Verizon, then all of a sudden you're like beside Will Smith, who's incredible. I mean, I can't imagine what that must feel like in that moment, but like, I mean, so you're starting to get a lot of these jobs and everything, and you're obviously going to these auditions and like meeting other people in the business. And I can't imagine what that's like competitively, but like, did that ever have an effect on you? Like, feeling like you had to have like a certain body type, or like, just creating like an unhealthy relationship with like food and fitness or anything like that?
Yeah, I think that's something I can openly say I still struggle with at times. I think whether it's stress or hormonally, or just with the waves of this specific job, and then the city I live in as well, where it's a very Peter Pan city, where it seems like no one grows old and no one settles down, and everyone's like younger and younger as they get older and older. There's a lot of pressure to keep up because there's a lot of people that are willing to push you in front of a bus to take your spot. Like, that's just the raw truth of it all. There's a lot of people that come out here, and this city lends itself to like attracting specific types of people I was telling Mena Suvari, one of my co-stars on American Woman, I was like, there's a hungry out here that's very captivating and sexy, but there's also a dirty hungry at times. And it's like kind of how you feed your hunger. And you could do it by being a good person and not losing who you are, or trying to be as true to that as you can. And then there's like the seedy people. So it's like, you got to kind of watch. But I mean, I think when it comes to physically, the pressures, I think when I'm feeling my best and feeling my most confident is after I've eaten very clean, and I've put wonderful food in my body, and I've gotten enough sleep, and I've worked out. And I think then that's like my instrument. My instrument is my body and my brain, and that's my business. My business is not a storefront. I'm my business. Right. So I think when I respect myself in the right way, it rewards me in the same way that I still have nights where I'm like, I'm addicted right now to this vegan thing called Cocoa Whip, and I can't get enough of it. And within 2 days it's gone. And I like, right before we got on this call, I ate almost half of the tub. And I was like, but it's vegan and it's Cocoa Whip. Right. And I was like, no, Jennifer, you can't. You got to put it down. So
I'm glad you mentioned that, actually, because like I saw it on one of your Instagram stories, and I was going to bring it up because I'm also addicted to the Cocoa Whip, and it's so good.
It's a problem. I mix it with the organic peanut butter from Whole Foods 365, and I sit in my kitchen, at my counter, and it sucks because like it's unfortunate, especially women. We do this thing where we are really negative self-talk. We negative self-talk ourselves, like, oh, like that's going to make or break all the hard work I put in my life because I had some Cocoa Whip and peanut butter. So like, I think it's about forgiveness and being forgiving. Like, because I used to struggle really bad with like, well, I ate pizza one night. I guess that means I'm a horrible person and I'm a pig and I'm not healthy and I'll just eat bad for the week. Mm-hmm. And you realize that the quicker you forgive yourself and reset, the more balanced you are, and it's not that big of a deal. Like,
right. Because at the end of the day, it's really peanut butter, and it had, and the Cocoa Whip does have obviously a little bit of extra sugar, but like it's coconut milk. Like, it could be a whole lot worse. You're not sitting there like taking down like 80 Milky Ways,
No, my treats my type 1 treats are much cleaner than most Americans' treats. Like, because I have to watch that. My pancreas does not like me. I can't for fun just eat Snickers, Right. I don't eat sugars unless my blood sugar has gone low. So I treat myself like the Cocoa Whip is pretty, like, glycemic wise. Peanut butter I can do. Cocoa Whip's not bad. So when I find treats I can eat, I try not to beat myself up as much,
Yeah, no, I think it's awesome just having that perspective. Was that something like, because you were talking about how like when you do eat well, like you have more of that confidence and you have less of like that stress of social pressure and all of that. Like, was that something that kind of came natural, or just you kind of like learned like through the process, or have you always been, for the most part, like you were gravitated towards those kind of foods?
I've always, as I've gotten older, I really, especially being in LA, like I flirt with being vegan. I think it's a little hard being vegan and being full vegan and being type 1 diabetic, because there's a lot of grain replacement that you use that is really hard glycemic wise. It's just another hurdle I have to go with because I have a disease, autoimmune disease. So I think that's a thing, but I've always enjoyed like what delicious foods are going to make me feel great that still taste great. I also think there's a big thing of like healthy foods means bad. And I think there's been a really nice birth of like, especially in bigger cities where, Brussels sprouts is a fun dish to have now with like tossed in olive oil and like Himalayan sea salt. And like, if you do eat meat, like whatever, like throw some meat, like whatever it is, something that flavors it up. So it's more approachable for people. I feel like the stigma is going away of like healthy foods means gross.
Right. Like I've seen some of the stuff you put, like I know we were talking about the tempeh the other day, like with the buffalo sauce. Like there's so many different ways like you can substitute things or season things and make it really, really good. It doesn't have to be like, oh, here's a plain Brussels sprout, like go, like there's so many different ways.
My dad hated Brussels sprouts. So growing up, my late grandmother, rest her soul, like made boiled Brussels sprouts. And my dad was like, I hate Brussels sprouts. I grew up knowing my dad hated them. Then I moved out to New York or LA or something back in the day. And I started sauteing them with like, I'd sweat out some garlic. I'd throw in some chopped onion, cracked pepper. And then I'd chop them up real like little. And then I gave them to my dad and he was like, I can't believe this. And I was like, it's all about how you approach the food, like
definitely.
So it's interesting. But
that is cool. And like, you were just mentioning that, you do have type 1 diabetes, and like, that's something that, you found that out pretty recent, right? Like this past year?
During shooting American Woman, I found out. I started losing weight and I was like losing weight. And then in my weird sick mind, I was like, I guess this is what happens. I kind of feel like I'm dying some days, but I look good. And I was like, I guess this is being an actor. And I was like, what? This makes no sense. So I went to the doctor because I was actually like I was peeing like 5 or 6 times a night. And
crazy.
I was like, I don't have a UTI.
You're like, I'm pregnant. No, but you're losing weight.
Yeah, no, I didn't know what it was. And it was the fact that my body wasn't processing my sugars. And so my sugars, I was just peeing out my sugars. And so, we found out last year, and it's been, it's been an extra, it's part of my journey. I try to just stay positive and inspire other people. Like it's not defining who I am. Some people it does, and that's okay because they create awareness that way. But mine is just like another hurdle. Everyone has hurdles. This is one of mine. And I think it's interesting because like, I want people to know you can still be an actor. You can still be a performer. You can still work out and do flywheel and do spin. You just you have more responsibility on your plate. That's it.
Right. So like when you found that out, like, are you super shocked? Because honestly, I don't know, like, and I'm sure you know this from researching it like crazy, but like, do you know like the percentage of people that find that out at a later age?
Yeah, it's a misnomer to think that most people are born with type 1 because there's type 1 and type 2. Type 2 is more hereditary in lifestyle. Type 1 is also hereditary, but just it's an autoimmune disease. My own body is saying, I hate you, pancreas. And my pancreas is like, cool, I guess I won't work anymore. So it's different. But to think that all kids are born with it, only coming into the diabetes community, which has been amazing with social media because I've really connected with like-minded people, and coming in and having a sense of community, I realized that a lot of people are diagnosed. I have personal friends that I came up with in comedy that were diagnosed in their mid-30s. And there's a lot of people diagnosed in college. And it, your body chooses, I guess, if and when it's like, here we go. So I don't, and stress can lead it on. Last year was a very stressful year in a good way, but it was a lot of stress, and the show and stuff, maybe that had some part in it, but you just kind of learn to respect your body more when you went after you accept it. I mean, the first few weeks was very sad. I was very depressed, and I almost was like in shock. Like you said, I didn't want to accept it.
I think most people would be that way because it's like, you were, how, if you don't mind me asking, how old were you whenever you found out?
35.
Yeah. So, obviously at 35, you're not going to be like, or, the year before you're like, okay, I'm going to have diabetes next year, like that's just something that's completely like, it comes up out of nowhere, and then you have to adapt to that because that changes every aspect of your day.
Oh, there's no like drunken pizza nights anymore. I mean, there is, but I risk having really high blood sugar because...
Or seizures, right?
Yeah, seizures, or my blood dropping really low, or my blood, consistent high blood sugars can have complications down the road. And then consistent low blood sugars. I've had 2 bad ones where I just was like, is this how I go out? And it's just really sad and scary, but you just learn to respect the journey. And a lot of people are like, you'll get the hang of it. And I'm like, well, that's the thing with diabetes. I'm recreating what your pancreas does. I don't know how a pancreas works. I just have to go off of numbers and insulin and how I feel each day, and then modify and trust as I go. So it's a little, it's a hefty little chunk of something on your plate. I don't know, trying to stay positive. It's not the best thing, but.
Were you like nervous at first because I know you're super into fitness. Were you kind of iffy at first with like pushing yourself in a workout, or were you just in a really good place after you had that few weeks of like, just kind of, just getting that like, through your head that you have it and you have to adapt, you know what I mean?
Well, I had a honeymoon phase, so my pancreas still worked a little bit, so my numbers weren't that crazy. Mm-hmm. So only recently, I would say, like even yesterday, I'm in love with this spin class called Flywheel, and it's just this amazing competitive, like kind of like 45-minute ride. That's amazing. I love it.
So I'll leave like music blaring.
Yeah, just music blaring and like positive affirmation, and it's just but it's like approachable. It doesn't feel like culty. And so I'll leave there sometimes, and that's what I have to watch is like to inject insulin before a workout, you risk going very low, and then you have to shove fruit or fruit snacks in your mouth. And so I think it's like the time of day I work out, I have to pay attention to. I get a little scared. Like sometimes I won't wear a sensor, and so I just have to check my blood the old-fashioned way, like with a little pricker. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I'm like, oh, I feel a little weird. And so high interval training too, like I'll do Barry's boot camp classes where you're getting your heart rate up, you're bringing it down, you're getting it up, you're bringing it down. That can throw your system off because your body starts to use its fuel, and then your sugars can drop very quickly. So I've chugged juice boxes in classes. And I have no shame about that either. Like I feel like for a minute I had shame, I was embarrassed. And like, again, this isn't who I am. This is a part of who I am.
Right.
And I don't care what other people think, because at the end of the day, I have to worry about me.
Well, right. Well, I feel like if I was in a workout class and I saw somebody chugging a juice, I wouldn't think anything of it, Like I don't think anybody would judge that,
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's almost sometimes when you get in your own way and you're like, oh, I wonder what people are thinking. And then it's like, I don't care what people think. Like, this is my thing.
Yeah.
I'm the one that has it.
It's relatively new, but do you feel like you're starting to like sense when things are off? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, can you sense if it's low or high? Like now that you know with the numbers? Yeah.
Yeah, I get intense headaches when it's high, and I feel cloudy, like my brain feels cloudy, and my heart will be fast, and I get hot. And then if I'm really low, it comes on very quick, and it feels like I've never had a seizure yet. I hope to God I never have one.
Right.
It feels like a panic attack, but it's physical. It's not like a mental, you're worried. It's a physical, like your heart's beating fast, your vision starts to blur. It's a very scary experience that I just don't wish upon anyone, especially I feel so bad that children are born with this, and then this is what they know. Like I didn't know this a year ago. And so I kind of know both worlds, which makes it, I appreciate it. And it makes me appreciate things in general more, but yeah, you get to know your body. You listen to your body more. And I think that's what makes you eat and exercise, to keep up.
Right. And I saw you have the arm sensor, right? So like that
Yeah, I do.
okay.
Yeah.
How does that work exactly?
Well, you just it's this little mechanism that you pop into a any fatty tissue on your arm, and it's the Libre. So it's a smaller one because I wanted something that was a little more inconspicuous. And then you'd use this little charged thing, like a little device that you can swipe over the device that's stuck in your arm. There's a little needle that's just stuck in my arm with this device. And it lets me know if I'm going up or down in blood sugar, like what I'm trending. If I'm going to go up and I'm about to go to dinner, I know I need to take insulin. Or if I'm going down and I'm in a workout, I might need to drink juice. And so it helps me. And I have a little reader that lets me know what's going on. I'm about to get a more accurate sensor that's a little bigger, but then it connects to my Apple or my iPhone. And so that will be better, and I didn't want to do it at first. I was like, no, I don't need to. And I'm like, no, for red carpet events, I might not. Cause that's again, I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about my work, but, in general, for my day to day, it's great to know where your numbers are. So it's very important.
Is the updated one, is that on your arm as well?
The updated one on my arm, the Freestyle Libre, it doesn't automatically update. So I have to use this little device and the device reads it. But if I don't have that device on me, the thing in my arm is pointless.
Right.
So the new sensor would allow me to have a wireless connection to my phone at all times. Which
it's just, but it's on your arm too, just bulkier, basically.
The other sensor can go more places. It can go in on my tummy. And so I can wear a flouncier shirt and no one would ever really know. But I've also come to terms where it's I don't care. I know I take good care of myself and I'm proud of who I am. And sometimes people ask what it is, and sometimes I lie and I'm like, oh, I'm part of this new thing called Google Body. It's a thing that monitors your body. I mean, I'm just a real jerk with it because
that's hilarious. People probably believe it though. I'm sure.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. I mean, do you feel it at all?
When it's in and I'm working out, when I do tries, because it's near my try, I can feel it. I can feel a little something's in my arm, but it doesn't feel bothersome. No, it's not. The benefit outweighs any sort of little thing. Sure. When the first time I did it, I went on social media live. I never do that. That's not me. And I just was like, hey, anyone who wants to watch, can you help me out here? Because I'm so scared to stick this thing in my arm. And everyone cheered me on and I did it. And I was like, that was awesome because I was really nervous that's hard to be now you got to stick needles in your arm and you got to prick your finger every day and you got to constantly be sticking yourself.
Yeah.
Now it's nothing, but the first few weeks it was very difficult and I was very bitter and angry. I was like, why do I have to do this?
Yeah. It's just, like you said, you have to be so aware of every action now. Do you feel that's, just affected your overall mindset? You just that level of gratitude and just more conscious about, being more present, you know what I mean? Has that affected that aspect of it?
Yeah, I think in general, I've become more present and more grateful for moments, things, people, than I ever was. But on the flip, I think, I have to think about things a lot more than other people. I have to be more present and that's a beautiful thing. Namaste. Yes. But if I'm not, things could go horribly wrong. So, it's a double-edged sword, as are most things, but I try to stay positive. And again, putting it out there to create awareness, because there's all this stigma behind diabetes and a lot of sadness or miseducation or lack of education, and anything I could do to help inspire what I'd like to do.
And I think you're doing an amazing job just being super transparent on your platforms. I know on Instagram you're putting out a lot of positivity, and I think that's super important because if you do have that teenager, that girl at home, maybe she's in high school and she sees somebody like you, it's oh, she has it too. This is what she's doing. She's still working out. She's still super successful. That has to be super encouraging. And the community of it's just so powerful, just that aspect of it.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing is creating a sense of community and attracting the people you want to attract.
Yeah.
I feel when I was in a different place in my life, I was attracting people that I realize now I was putting out a different frequency. Mm-hmm. And now I feel I'm more in tune with myself, and then the positive stuff I'm putting out there comes back. And and you could be like, that sounds so hippie or whatever. I'm like, okay, well, I've done both. I've done it both ways, and I'll tell you this way. works better. And so like anything I could do to give good vibes to someone else and make them feel good, it comes back to you. I
Yeah,
think.
no, it's definitely not hippie at all. I mean, what you put out there is what you attract. And like, I don't think anybody can really argue that. I think that's just amazing. And like, I mean, do you feel like, you know, when you hear stories of people who have gone through like something crazy, or maybe they've battled like this, a bad disease, or had something happen to them that's like, just super life-changing, and they're just like, man, that's the best thing that's ever happened to me. And like, and I'm sure that's a really hard place to get to, but like, do you feel that you're at that point? Like you're grateful because you know it's for a purpose, or like, are you still working for it? Because I know it's still super soon, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's the way I choose to look at it, is with a sense of feeling grateful that A, I caught it, and then B, it makes me respect my body even more. And again, guys, I am not perfect. I still sometimes drink too much wine, and I still sometimes I'm like, oh well, no one's looking, I can eat this pizza. And it's like, no, Jen, you're looking. There's no one else here. Like, it's just your pancreas is looking, like, you know, so it's like, I think, I feel like I'm not perfect, but I, with this sense of forgiveness and a sense of things that I do believe things happen for reasons. And sometimes it's only when you're far enough away, and you kind of look back in the rear view, do you see they have a purpose and it was part of your journey. And that's how I choose to embrace it. I've been thrown a lot of things in my life. I was talking to someone I'm close to, and he was like, you've really lived a life, Jen. I was just talking. He's like, man, you did that too. And this, and then that happened. And I'm like, yeah, I guess I have lived a big life. I mean, it's been a lot of really big ups and some, big downs. And I think that makes you who you are. That now I have a lot more perspective on things. So.
Right. No, I love that. And I love that perspective because, I mean, like you were saying earlier, it's like, yeah, you have type 1 diabetes, but like that in no way like defines who a person is, like, at like that soul level, like that doesn't make you who you are. Just like, you're an actress and that's an amazing job, but like that doesn't define you either, So it's like just understanding that those things like don't make you who you are, and just being super grateful and like putting out the most positive energy that you can.
Yeah. And I think we all have layers to us. We all have like our things that excite us and our demons and whatever we have and the things we've been through. And it's like, we're all multidimensional people. Like, I feel like I'm not just an actor. You're not just a doc. Like, no one's just any one thing. I think it's this culmination of all the things you've been through that make you who you are and make you a whole person. Some people lean into that, and really love it and respect it and want to know more about themselves, which is where I'm at. And some people don't. Some people deny themselves, and that's their own journey they're on. Everyone to each their own at this point. You just got to do the best thing for you. Don't waste your energy trying to fix or help others. Just be the best you. And again, that will gravitate other like-minded people.
Do you have like things that you like to do to increase like self-awareness? Because I'm sure with the schedule like you have, and like, I mean, we were talking before, you have so much stuff coming up. Like, I'm sure just taking that time to really have your own thoughts and just be still is just super important to your routine.
Yeah. I mean, I really tried to take time. I would say in the last 6 months, I've really dedicated a lot of time to self-work on myself, like really investing in myself mentally and physically. So journaling is really important. Like, that's something that just to document and understand and see, like, you can look back when you journal and see different rhythms or reason as to why maybe things are the way they are presently. Mm-hmm. So you get a really nice big snapshot of like how you got here because you wrote it down and how you felt. And I'm a really big believer in therapy. I think that therapy is just important. It's just a really non-biased approach to being able to trust someone and tell them, your things, and they can see patterns or understand what maybe you're dealing with that you don't see in your own space. And then I think fitness. I mean, fitness. I'm addicted to it. It's my favorite thing because I love having a nice, physically strong, lean body. And then that's for work. That's my business too, is to stay a certain size. But also it's mental, like getting a sweat, being with other like-minded people who want to also push their body for good. Great. It's just awesome.
Right. Yeah, no, 100% agree. That's amazing. And, like we were just saying, like you do have like a really big year coming up, and, we can't jump off without talking about your new show coming up, American Woman. And do you want to, like, for people that maybe are just now hearing about it, kind of describe like what the show's about?
Yeah, so it's called American Woman. It comes out on June 7th on Paramount Network. And Paramount Network, if you're like, do I get that? It used to be Spike TV. You can go to ParamountNetwork.com and put in, and it'll let you know where you live and what channel it is. And then and you could also see it on iTunes. But it's about three women, three best friends coming up in the 70s. So it's Alicia Silverstone, who is a recently single mother, played by, or her name's Bonnie. And then you have Mena Suvari, who plays Kathleen, and she's kind of a friend that comes from old money, and she's trying to find her voice within LA. And then you have my character, Diana, who's this working woman who's trying to like hustle it out in 1975 in a real corporate man's world. And it's kind of how they go on these rides separately. They go on them separately, but they kind of always come back to each other as friends. And I think it's wonderful. The style's great. I think the messages are really relevant right now. You know, I think that's fortunate and unfortunate that like within the last year, we're seeing this new wave of women coming out and being much more vocal in regards to equality and mistreatment. And I think this show is going to resonate with a lot of people. It's also by John Wells, who did Shameless and Southland, and it was written by John Ricci, who's an amazing writer who did 30 Rock, and Kyle Richards, The Real Housewife. It's very loosely based, or a jump off is from her personal life that kind of sprinkles in within the show. So there's so many wonderful people behind it. I'm so thankful. Like, this is an actor's dream to work with people you've always wanted to work with in the 70s, wearing vintage clothes. I mean,
you cannot go wrong. I mean, I honestly don't think they could have picked like three more like boss, strong women for a cast. Like, how's been working with them been as well? Because I mean, the three of you together, like that energy exchange must be like just super amazing.
I mean, they're amazing. I mean, they came up in the industry when I was still like selling cell phones and doing comedy at night. So I've learned so much from them, and I admire them. I mean, just as a person and as a friend now. And I learned a lot while on set, but they're great. I mean, they are badass women, and they're strong women, and they're strong people in general, you know? And I think what's nice about this show is there'll be a lot of people that watch, and it's kind of like the old Sex and the City idea. Like, are you a Samantha or are you more of a Carrie? And I feel like you could be like, well, I'm a little bit of a Bonnie, but when, you know, Kathleen or Diana did that, I would totally understood what that was, you know? So I think it will align with a lot of people. Yeah.
That's cool. Now I'm excited to check it out. I know it's going to be amazing. The trailer is already out, and I've seen that, and it looks really awesome. So I'm super excited for you guys. It's going to be really great.
Thank you. I mean, we worked really hard on it, and there's, like I said, a lot of love went into it on all ends to make it look and feel truly like the 70s without hitting it over the head that it's a 70s show. You know, sometimes you see these shows and you're like, oh my God, we get it. It's the 70s. We get it. Bell bottoms everywhere. We get it. And this, I think, just sprinkles in like a real genuine kind of flavor. So I think it's great.
That's cool.
So thank you for being so jazzed for us.
Yeah, no, it's going to be awesome. And I mean, obviously that's a big thing coming up and promoting for that, but like, do you have anything like coming up in the future that you want to put out there and share with people, or just promotion like crazy for the show and just working on that?
I mean, a big thing with me that I'm working with my writing partner right now, and we're trying to sell an idea that we've been working on. And it's more of a vehicle for other women, because I just want to help other women. There's so many talented people I know out here that deserve opportunities. And a lot of times, you know, people who deserve an opportunity don't receive one. So I think if there's anything I can do in creating more opportunities for other people, you know, while writing and maybe producing more, that's something that I'm looking into right now. And hopefully the heat of the show will allow me to be seen by more people and have more people take chances on me.
That's awesome. No, I know it's going to be amazing. And all of that sounds incredible. And like, you know, Jen, what is the best way for people to follow you on social media? That way they can keep up with, you know, when you're sharing your cooking, or like, you know, because she puts out some like really awesome recipes that she's cooking and is really funny with it too. So what is the best way for people to follow you on social media to keep up with everything?
All across the board on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. I'm at the Jen Bartels. So THE Jen Bartels, BARTELS. And I love when people follow me. I keep it pretty real, but I feel like that's what people like. So I'm like, well, why would I not be who I am?
100%. And yeah, and then Jen, just a closing question that I ask every guest. But if you just had one piece of advice for the audience, maybe it's been something that's been like your biggest takeaway through your journey so far, but if you just had just one piece of advice to give, what would it be?
put yourself first, because if you don't put yourself first and you don't love yourself, you don't have the right love to give to other people. And so you have to really invest in yourself before investing in anyone else. As a mom, as a daughter, as a wife, as a whatever, put yourself first. Because if you don't, no one else will. And when you really do that, you'll be the best partner and the best daughter and the best whomever you can be. So I think that's important, is that sense of self-love.
100%. No, that's perfect, Jen. And just, hey, thank you so much for taking time to come on. I'm extremely excited to have you and can't wait to check out American Woman. I know it's going to be amazing.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you guys so much for listening to today's episode. I hope you loved my conversation with Jennifer. I love how she's using her platform for positivity and just really excited for her upcoming work. So be sure to give her a follow on social media to keep up with everything that she's been working on. You can find her social media links that we talked about in the episode in the show notes, but you can also find them on my website as well at drcaseyjohnson.com. That's drkaseyjohnson.com. Click on the Listen tab. Then from there, you'll be able to see all of the past guests that have come on the Unlock Wellness podcast, read a little bit about each guest, and be able to click on their social media links, websites, all of that. So all of Jen's information can be found on my site as well. If you guys loved today's episode with Jennifer, be sure to jump onto iTunes, subscribe, and write a review. It really helps me out a lot, and I really appreciate all of the feedback and support. Thank you guys so much again for tuning in to today's episode. I hope you loved it. I hope it inspires you. And most importantly, I hope you take action.